On the one hand, you have a Windows phone by Nokia with great build quality and an operating system that utilizes tiles. And on the other hand, you have an Android phone by HTC with great build quality and an operating system that utilizes tiles. Hey, it's Josh Vergara from Android Authority. What's going on, everybody? And this is the HTC One versus the Nokia Lumia 928. This just might be the closest battle I've ever done when it comes to design. It's no secret that the HTC One is an incredibly well put together phone, with its aluminum chassis and unique form factor. The sides are flat, and despite being a little angled, they help with the grip. The aluminum adds to the phone handling, and even though it's not really fingerprint prone, it can be quite slippery to the touch. Two capacitive keys lie under the screen up front, while the power button is up top with the volume rockers on the right. The opinion that HTC hit a home run with design here is pretty unanimous. I even got the Stealth Black version, which to me makes it even better. The only complaint would have to be the rounded thickness. The back is very ovular, making it rock back and forth if you use it on the table. From the aluminum we go to plastic, and for the Nokia Lumia 928 this actually isn't a bad thing. The 928 is a glossy plastic covered device that is thicker than the One and less rounded. This rectangular form factor brings quite thick flat sides that make it very easy to grip. 3 capacitive keys are on the front. While the HTC One has the screen slightly larger, the 928 brings a very accessible screen size of 4.5 inches. There is a simplicity here similar to the HTC One, as you can see on the back. It is all white, only with the camera optics atop a black line down the middle. Glossy plastic makes this phone pretty fingerprint prone, and the gloss does give it the potential to slip around just as much as the One. Obviously, this comes down to a question of materials, plastic or metal. Both phones benefit from smaller screen sizes, and their form factors are easy in the hand. There is an elegant simplicity to both of these devices that make them very attractive. So it's a matter of what you actually want your phone to look like and how you want it to feel. We might not be working with 5-inch screens here, but these displays do very well. We'll start with the smaller one. The 928 has a 4.5-inch Super AMOLED screen capable of 1024 by 768 resolution at 332 ppi. Coming in at around 720 resolution makes this a good performer. It greatly complements the high contrast, colorful motif of Windows Phone 8 with its high saturation. A lower pixel density doesn't hurt text viewing too much, so this screen is an easy handler made for work and play. And then we up the ante with the 4.7-inch Super LCD screen of the HTC One. As pretty much the only screen under 5 inches capable of 1080p resolution, this display is also rated at a whopping 469 ppi. As such, you get great resolution in a very accessible size. It isn't as saturated as usual AMOLED screens, but it handles the darker tones of Sense 5 greatly. Media looks great due to the resolution, but that pixel density also makes text razor sharp. How much do you want out of your smartphone screen? Those wanting super high performance can look to the HTC One for all their needs. Just don't count the 928 out, as its specs are more than adequate for everyday use. Performance might widen the gap between these two phones. Starting with the HTC One, it was one of the first phones to sport the Snapdragon 600 power processor that clocks in at 1.7 GHz. It is an incredibly fast processing package that is backed by the tried and true Adreno 320 and 2 GB of RAM. Scores put the HTC One squarely among the best phones in the Android market, and through Blink Feed and Sense 5, it's easy to see the speed. The Lumia 928 sports a package that we'd consider more mid-range in the Android space, with its dual-core Snapdragon S4 Plus clocked in at 1.5 GHz, backed by the Adreno 225 and 1 GB of RAM. While us Android users might lament this package in current Android experiences, it works perfectly for the definitely less demanding Windows Phone 8. Ultimately, despite the big gap on paper, these are top performers for their respective ecosystems. Fast will be on the agenda no matter which one you go for. The hardware situation starts off simple enough. Both of these phones don't sport expandable memory and have non-removable batteries. Both come with 32 GB of onboard storage, though the HTC One can also be found with 64 GB. That's where the similarities end. We'll start with the HTC One, which comes with the usual bevy of connections: Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, and NFC. The additions include Beats Audio, which is not customizable but does a good job of adding more richness and volume to music. An IR blaster enhances your TV experience. The phone speaker is good, if not exceptional. Speaking of speakers, Boom Sound. Obviously, these are getting a big mention as they are exemplary front-facing speakers. They're light years better than anything else for sharing media with others. The 928, on the other hand, comes with the same usual bits of hardware, including NFC. As a Verizon exclusive phone, it connects to the carrier's great and fast LTE networks, something that the HTC One can only currently boast on the smaller Sprint network. Both speakers suffer from the same problem. While they're adequate, get too loud and it starts to get fuzzy and drown out details. That's really the story here. There isn't much truly separating the 928 from the HTC One, which is a bit of a detriment, but rest assured that everything you do get on the 928 is reliable, just not as exciting. In the battery department, we're dealing with a 2300 mAh performer in the HTC One and a 2000 mAh unit in the Lumia 928. The difference isn't all that huge between the two, and it mostly shows in usage. Impressively, the HTC One has been reported to get up to 10 hours of web browsing and video playback. I got to around 8 hours. The 928 got right above 6 hours, but where it shines is in standby time. I've kept it sitting for hours on end without a big change to battery life. Power saving options are available on both devices, so while the HTC One will let you play for longer, you'll get a good day's work done easily either way. Now, both cameras take on special features to bring out the best quality pictures. In lowering the megapixel count to 4, HTC focused these ultra pixels to get the best possible photos. The app benefits from HTC Zoe, a program that can put together your photos and videos into lovely montages. Other scenes include HDR and panorama. Picture quality really is very good, especially in low light situations. These 4 ultra pixels really flood in a lot of light to make indoor shots pop. Even if the pictures are smaller in size, HTC did a fine job with their new, unique shooter. The Lumia 928 instead takes the common 8 megapixel camera and throws a lot of enhancing features in. This Carl Zeiss powered shooter adds in pure view technology and even a xenon flash to achieve good results. The app is pretty standard but can be enhanced with downloaded add-ons called lenses. Overall, the pictures are good. The Carl Zeiss optics do well, while the pure view stabilization helps with indoor and low light shots. Of course, if you need it, you have that xenon flash as well. Now, if the size of the picture really matters to you, the choice is a little simpler here. But with the same spirit for picture quality either way, you'll ultimately end up with good results. And here comes the software. We're looking at 2 exceptional mobile operating systems in Windows Phone 8 and HTC Sense 5 version of Android. We'll start with the 928 and Windows Phone 8. It is an incredibly simple user interface that manages to be simply elegant and highly intuitive at the same time. What you get is a black or white background with primary colors on top. The live tiles are your shortcuts, but in the new version they give you extra information when you resize them. It gives you exactly what you need, nothing too much more. As far as apps go, the Windows Phone ecosystem obviously has quite a ways to go before it rivals Android. But what you do get baked into Lumia's WP8 works pretty well. Now on the other end, HTC took their love it or hate it Sense UI and gave it a major overhaul in the HTC One. What used to look bloated and somewhat too spaced out has been a bit flattened. It's still a little spaced out, but cleaning things up really helped. The real addition here is Blink Feed, which pretty effectively replaces your home screens. It is a tiled amalgamation of your news and social networks. If you have a ton of sources, it might be a little overwhelming, but it isn't too hard to narrow it down. It also isn't hard to get back to a more familiar looking Android. If this was an earlier version of Sense, I honestly think the HTC One wouldn't get quite as much praise. But with version 5, it brings a fresh look and feel that is a good leap forward. So, it's a battle of the tiles. While Windows Phone 8 takes the simplistic style to the max, you get the same idea in Blink Feed, which is on top of an already powerful Android platform. As ecosystems go, Android still offers much more than Windows Phone, but if you just want to get back to basics, the 928 is still a fine choice. And finally, price. Unlocked, the HTC One takes on the premium price of $699, quite a bit over the $500 price tag of the Lumia 928. On 2-year contracts, however, the HTC One generally gets around the $199 price point, while the Lumia 928 can actually be found for much less, $49 officially, though it just dropped to $29.99 on Amazon Wireless. And so, there you have it. When it's all said and done, we find that both of these phones share some philosophies. Good build quality, uniquely feature-packed cameras, and tiled operating systems. Both excel at what they set out to do. If you want a bigger ecosystem, the HTC One is backed by Android, while the Lumia 928 packs reliable, built-in software with an ecosystem that is still growing. Ultimately, Windows Phone does have its place in the mobile space, But the HTC One with Sense 5 is a great example of how diverse the Android market is, which means it's also a great example of why us Android users don't easily convert. Thank you very much for watching this edition of Versus. If you want to see the full reviews for both of these devices, you can see the links over on the side. Don't forget to drop us a like down below and to subscribe. And then stay tuned to Android Authority's YouTube channel because we are your source for all things Android.